And now to the next form, and that is the Assessment Form 1, Evaluation of Behavior Assessment Battery. This one. Okay. And the authors are Britton and Van Wickenheim. The publishers are the Plur Publishing Incorporated. Date of publication in 2007. Cost for the full test record sheet, and I had a price of, in pounds, £14.62, and that was in during the autumn last year. Construct measured, yes. Purpose. The purpose of this test battery is to provide a multi-dimensional inside view on how a child feels, is affected by, copes with, and thinks about his or her speech. And the range of age is between 6 to 17 years. And now to the psychometric rating. The validity. Concurrent and predictive validity, see above. Reliability. Test-retest reliability and inter-test reliability, see mentioned above. Sample. A sample of 111 boys and 28 girls, American English-speaking children who stutter, compared to a group of 578 elementary and middle school age children who do not stutter. And in that control groups there are 281 boys and 297 girls. Score. The scores are 1 to 5, where 1 indicates a little or no problems and 5 indicates severe problems. So when you look at the psychometric testings, it's like the usual thing we have in the medical disciplines, where score 1 is little or no problems and high scores are severe problems. Administration. Materials needed is the behavior assessment battery, the whole package, including the manual and assessment sheets. And for the 5, the SCER, the speech situation checklist, emotional reaction, and the speech situation checklist, speech disruption, and the behavior checklist, BCL, and the communication attitude test, the CAT. And moreover, you need the scoring sheet for CAT and the norm sheet for all tests. Comparison between children who do not stutter and children who stutter. The mean standard deviation plus 1 standard deviation and plus 2 standard deviations. But they are all included in the manual. The basal, and that was a little bit a problem because please note here that this term is not mentioned in English-Swedish dictionary for statistic use. And here we would prefer more explaining words or easier terms such as lowest score. In this case, the term is interpreted as the lowest possible score, answered with reservation to wrong interpretation of statistics terms in English. My conclusion is here for the lowest scores, the basal, for the speech situation checklist, the emotional reactions is 55 items on a 5-point scale where 1 is not afraid, and that's basal, and that's 55 points then. And for this speech situation checklist, speech disruption, there are 55 items on a 5-point scale where 1 is no trouble, and the basal then gets to 55 points. For the behavior checklist, there are 50 items with yes or no answer, where 1 is yes and 0 is no, and then the basal will be 0 points. For the CAT, the communication attitude test, there are 33 items with true or false answers indicated. The scoring key for interpretation of answers that results in 1 point for each question, and then the basal will be 0 points. For the total lowest possible score of the whole behavior assessment battery, it comes to 110 points. Now to the ceiling. And here we got a problem too in interpretation to Swedish. Please note that this term is not mentioned in English-Swedish dictionary for statistic use. We have speech examples for ceiling is like the glass ceiling, i.e. the invisible highest boundaries for women's possibilities of career. And here I would prefer more explaining words or easier terms such as highest score. In this case, the term is interpreted as the highest possible score. My answers here is with reservation to wrong interpretation of a statistic term in English. Now to the speech situation checklist, emotional reactions, and the ceiling or the highest score, possible scores. 55 items on a 5-point scale, and that is 5 very much afraid, and here the ceiling will come up to 275 points. Now for the speech situation checklist, the speech disruption. There are 55 items on a 5-point scale where 5 is very much trouble, and then the ceiling comes up to 275 points. Now to the behavior checklist, where there are 50 items with yes or no answer, with one is yes and 0 is no. And here the ceiling gets up to 50 points. And now to the communication attitude test, where there are 33 items to indicate the answers true or false. The scoring key for interpretation of answers that results in 1 point for each question. And here the ceiling, I counted it to 33 points. And the total high score on the whole behavior assessment battery comes up to 633 points. The time taken for the assessment is 15 minutes approximately for each test, in all 1 hour. Score types. For the speech situation checklist, it is 1 to 5, where 1 is indicated as no problems and 5 severity. For the behavior checklist, the yes-no answers, yes is problems. For CAT true false, the problems are indicated in the score key. And the behavior assessment battery is used with peer in 2010, 7th of November. and the comments are testing, assessment, procedure, and scoring with a friend. And used clinically in 2010, the November the 11th. And comments are the behavior assessment battery is tested clinically for the first time. And now to the caveats or caveats. Please note that this term is mentioned in English-Swedish dictionary for juridical use or law. For example, protest, caveat emptor, i.e. the buyer's responsibility to investigate that the goods are without any defects. And here we would prefer more explaining words or easier term, for instance, such as critics or objections against test procedure. In this case, the term is interpreted as objections against test procedure or test construction. And the answer given here is with reservation to wrong interpretation of scientific term in English. As you see, I'm not a native English speaker. My answer would be here that it is too early to put forward caveats, protests against a well-validated and reliability tested instrument by first sight. You have to give the assessment battery a fair chance by using it regularly or as a part of a scientific project before this. However, what is generally concluded by statisticians is that scales with even numbers are to prefer before odd numbers, and that is, for example, 4-point scales or 6-point scales instead of 5-point scales. This to give the respondents alternatives that are on the plus or on the minus part of the scale. That provides more clear responses generally, avoiding the trap of respondents that are insecure by answering to the question, but answering the question anyway with the alternative in the middle, interpreting as a neutral answer. This was the procedures we used in construction of tests within the framework of clinical test constructions within research in audiology. And this referred to 2 thesis projects and 1 development project references on the www.prosody.net. Now to the comments of suitability for your client population. In this particular case, concerning a school-aged boy with stuttering and developed selective mutism, it seems to be a good instrument for evaluation of severity of problems in communication. But with exception to some parts of the behavior checklist, we have to be aware of that we probably measure severeness of selective mutism as well as stuttering. As we know from literature, the condition of selective mutism seems more common in bilingual population. Therefore, the suggestion from my part of view, when there are indications of stuttering, always use the self-report scales in combination with perceptual ratings of stuttering. And that is a frequency counting, the percentage of stutter syllables, or the stuttering severity instrument, in combination with ratings of speech naturalness. By doing so, pre-post treatment, we might develop a higher knowledge of the effects of stuttering in development of selective mutism, and the best procedure and design of therapy helping those children to overcome their communicative problems.